Michael is my name. I'm an unmarried man in my 30s. As a journalist, I currently produce a variety of pieces for a certain online media platform. By the way, I am one of 12 authors that currently work for our organization, which is celebrating its 10th year. I have now worked for this company for about a year. I worked as a freelance writer for a big company before that. But I made the decision to quit my corporate job and work for this internet media company a year ago. In retrospect, I firmly felt the move marked a sea change in my life. My choice at the moment even caused my ex-girlfriend to end our relationship. My ex-girlfriend claims she was shocked that I would quit a secure position at the big company to follow my dreams. I occasionally questioned my choice at the time because I had been thinking about getting married to her. But now I know that I made the proper decision. Even though I currently make about half as much money as I did at my prior job, I am far more satisfied with my work as a full-time journalist here. I primarily authored anonymous commission articles during my first year, which helped me learn and prepare for my current position at the online media platform. You can have your own column with your name on it if your expertise is acknowledged. However, you must first develop your credentials. I was able to gradually develop such credentials with the help of Susan, one of our executives. Well done today, Michael. A travel agency has sent us a request. Are you able to manage it? Susan gave me the vacation agency's materials after saying that. My pulse raced a little when she came closer because I could smell her soap perfume. I particularly enjoyed Susan's natural aroma because I have a sensitive nose and don't appreciate heavy perfumes. I have always admired her, yes. I naturally become more excited when I'm near her. I said, "Of course, I'll start writing immediately," and I started typing on my computer right away. Susan, who is 33 and 3 years older than I am, helped launch our business. According to what I've been told, Susan was our female CEO's senior year in college. When the internet media was being established, the CEO scouted Susan for an executive position after recognizing her extraordinary computer skills. The CEO had excellent instincts. Now in its 10th year, our online media is well liked by internet users and has over 1 million readers. Major corporations now frequently request our services, and the company's future appears brighter than ever. I was depressed following my split when I started working for the company. But as soon as I met Susan, her charisma captured my attention. Susan boasts a model-like figure and is a sophisticated beauty. With her small face, smooth fair skin, and short black hair, she stood out in the office, especially with her vibrant makeup. Moreover, she is an extremely capable woman. She found suitable tasks for our company from the vast information online and consistently secured contracts for us. I also believe that my commission articles were recognized because she assigned jobs that suited me. In fact, all the writers in the company often say that it's because of Susan's leadership that we can work efficiently and effectively. Thanks to her sense of design and computer skills, our online media has such a user-friendly and attractive design, which has garnered so many fans. I truly respect Susan and can't help but admire her as an amazing woman. But realistically speaking, there's no way a regular employee like me could be a suitable match for an executive like her. If I were to show even a hint of interest, it would create an awkward atmosphere, making it difficult for me to continue working there. Susan herself is known to always maintain a professional demeanor without showing any vulnerabilities. In the office, she rarely talks about her private life. Even if there's a get-together, she doesn't drink and never joins for the after-party. Rumor has it that a few years ago, a male colleague stalked her even though she showed clear signs of disinterest. The guy was so persistent, his behavior escalated to the point where the company couldn't ignore it any longer, leading to his dismissal. Since he was an excellent worker, Susan apparently felt responsible for the outcome. After that incident, she has been very cautious in her interactions with male colleagues. Approaching her aggressively would only cause significant inconvenience. That's why I've always wanted to maintain our professional relationship of boss and subordinate. She's out of my league, always out of reach. But I always comforted myself by saying that just being by her side was enough. However, one day, my relationship with Susan began to change drastically. Suddenly, I was called into the CEO's office. Wondering what was going on, I headed to his office with a racing heart. The CEO greeted me with a big smile. "Michael, it's almost been a year since you became our exclusive writer. You've improved a lot, and I think it's time for you to have your own column. Both Susan and I have high expectations for you." I was ecstatic hearing the CEO's words. I had always wanted to make a name for myself, and now the chance had finally come. Without hesitation, I accepted the CEO's offer. Soon after, I met with Susan in a conference room to discuss the new column. Seeing her face to face made me nervous, but Susan was calm as usual. "Congratulations on the new column, Michael. I have my expectations for you." "Thank you. I'll do my best to meet your expectations." We then discussed the format and content of the column in detail. Given my love for traveling, we decided that I would write a weekly travel essay. When I mentioned I wanted to use my pen name Emerald Wanderer, Susan's attitude suddenly changed. Emerald Wanderer? You're using that pen name." It was unlike Susan, who was usually unflappable, to be so surprised. "What's going on?" Only knowing her usual cool demeanor, I felt a jarring contrast seeing her wide-eyed expression and slowly opened my mouth. "Yes, that's the name I want to use. Is there a problem?" Susan quickly shook her head. "No, not at all. It's just a lovely name. Emeralds are precious gems, and Wanderer is like a traveler, right? It's a wonderful pen name. I'm looking forward to your articles, Michael." Upon saying that, Susan left the conference room with a spring in her steps, wearing a bright and genuine smile. It was quite surprising to see Susan, who usually only gives a courteous grin, show such a warm and genuine smile. I returned to my office in a daze. I wasn't the only one surprised by Susan's behavior. My colleagues were also talking about it, saying things like, "I've never seen Susan in such a good mood before," and "I love Susan's usual cool demeanor, but seeing her smile like that truly warms my heart." For her sake, I'm going to put my all into writing great articles. With a strong resolve, I dedicated myself entirely to the series from that day. Susan's instincts were spot on, and my column was well received by the readers. Furthermore, Susan herself praised my articles, which sent me over the moon. Reading your articles makes me feel like I'm actually on a trip. You're very good at describing scenery. I'm seeing you in a whole new light. Thank you. I'm honored to hear that. While I've had experience getting praise for my work in the past, there's a special kind of joy being directly appreciated for my own original articles rather than contracted work. Ever since I was given the column, I've been able to engage in more personal conversations with Susan and enjoy my days even more. But that doesn't mean we've become closer outside of work. At the end of the day, Susan values me only for my work. If I misread that and try to force a personal bond, she'd probably be put off for sure. Considering our small company size, I knew I had to tread carefully. Days passed, with my feelings for Susan growing, but my inability to express them gnawed at me. Then a turning point came my way out of the blue. My mother brought up the topic of a matchmaking date. Apparently, my date was 2 years younger than me, and it was one of our relatives who had suggested the match. When I heard this, images of Susan immediately flashed through my mind. But she wasn't my girlfriend or anything. Maybe I should give up on a relationship that seemed to have no future and explore this new opportunity. Wanting to get advice, I decided to confide in a close colleague. After work, I invited him to a bar, and as we enjoyed our drinks, I told him about the matchmaking date idea, and he listened with great interest. "You know, Susan always seems so focused on work and doesn't appear to be interested in relationships. And she's a top executive. We're in different leagues. If things didn't work out, it might make things awkward for you at the company. Maybe it's a good idea to consider this matchmaking date thing. Sitting across the table from him, I nodded occasionally while maintaining eye contact. Suddenly, his face turned white as a sheet. "What's the matter?" I wondered. When I turned around, I saw Susan seemingly on her way out of the restaurant. Had she overheard our conversation? I saw her walking with her head down, looking uncomfortable, which made me freeze on the spot. Just my luck, running into her at a bar, and to make matters worse, having her overhear my true feelings about her. Talk about bad luck. After that incident, neither my colleague nor I felt like drinking much, and we decided to call it a night early. My colleague tried to comfort me, saying, "Don't sweat it," but I couldn't shake off my gloom. I thought we had gotten closer, but how should I face her at work now? Nevertheless, I couldn't skip work, so with a heavy heart, I headed to the office the next day. Sure enough, Susan was acting differently, deep in thought when she entered the conference room. She was probably wondering how to interact with me. However, we couldn't avoid the meeting, and as I was pondering how to proceed, Susan suddenly blurted out, "Michael, I might be out of line, but I really don't want you to be set up on any dates." Huh. I would have never dreamt of hearing such words from Susan. I was taken aback. But she had even more shocking news to share. "Michael, since high school, you've been someone special to me. When I heard your pen name, I immediately realized you were the same boy who praised the magazine I made." Oh, the one with the camellia on the cover. Of course I remember. Hearing Susan's words brought back memories from 15 years ago. Back when I was in junior high, I visited a cultural fair at my dream high school and headed straight for the literature club's booth. The club's magazine was of such high quality that I couldn't believe it was made by high school students. It had a beautiful brown cover with a black camellia drawing, giving it an air of classic literature. On the back cover, the designer's name was written as Camellia. As I was about to purchase the magazine, a nerdy-looking girl with long black hair and glasses sat at the counter. On her chest, she wore a badge with the name Camellia. Recalling that memory, I looked deeply into Susan's eyes. In that moment, the image of the literature club girl and Susan before me began to merge. Although she wasn't wearing glasses anymore, and her appearance had changed considerably, I could still catch glimpses of the young girl and Susan. Back then, when you were buying the club magazine, you complimented it, saying, "This is a fantastic magazine." Even though I was in the literature club, I had no real talent in writing, so I mainly focused on the design of posters and magazines. Hearing your words at the time, I felt a mix of emotions. But then you said, "If you can produce such a wonderful magazine, that's amazing." The moment I saw this cover, I just knew I had to have it. Hearing that for the first time, I felt like someone truly recognized and appreciated me. Even if I didn't have the gift of writing, it gave me hope that I could still contribute in other ways. Susan, the words I said to Susan 15 years ago were genuine. Even if an article is well written, without that something that catches the reader's attention, they might never discover it. In that sense, I deeply felt Susan was a crucial bridge between the work and its readers. It felt miraculous to be working with her now, and my heart swelled with emotion. Tears glistening in her eyes, Susan spoke again. After I graduated, my younger sister still attended the school, so I asked her to buy me the Literature Club's magazine during the cultural fair. In it, I was captivated by the work of a student with the pen name Emerald Wanderer. My sister, who wasn't involved in the club, didn't know who that was, so the next year, I went to the cultural fair myself. There, I found a boy with the name Emerald Wanderer. I was shocked to find out he was the same boy who comforted me a few years back. I was thrilled that he had joined the same high school and literature club. I wanted to approach him, but saw he was surrounded by friends and looked busy, so I couldn't. The next year, I looked for another chance to meet him during the cultural fair, but I couldn't find him. I did learn his real name was Michael from another club member. But until I heard your pen name for this series, I hadn't realized that young boy was you. After all, you've grown so much, tall and slender since high school. I see. That was why Susan acted differently when she learned my pen name. It's no wonder she didn't notice, given the tremendous change I had in college, where I grew 4 inches taller and lost 22 elves at the same time. Then Susan, with her cheeks flushed, looked at me with determination. I've always been passive in love, but when I heard you were going for the matchmaking date, Michael, I thought. I couldn't let things stay that way. I like you, Michael. Please stay by my side. I want to keep reading your work forever. I never thought the usually cool Susan would approach me this assertively. I, too, honestly expressed my feelings. I like you too, Susan. Ever since I met you, you've been special to me, and just being by your side makes me happy. Michael, you've always been a pillar of strength for me. Having you accept me this way makes me so happy, but it's kind of embarrassing because today, unlike before, I spilled my true feelings. It feels weird saying this. Susan blushed, her white cheeks as red as a camellia flower. I felt bad for feeling this, but seeing her like that was refreshing. She's incredibly cute. The contrast of her current and previous image left me in awe, and I couldn't take my eyes off her. From then on, Susan and I officially started dating. Thanks to her, my column was going really well, and my pay had also increased. 3 years have passed since I started working at the company. Now that I finally sorted my work and life, I decided to propose to Susan. Seeing the camellia-inspired design of the engagement ring I chose, Susan laughed amusedly. What a unique design. Where did you find it? Yeah, when I saw a magazine featuring a camellia design, I thought it was such a beautiful flower. It left me with an unforgettable impression, and I've always wanted to immortalize it. Susan has always been, and still is, the woman I look up to. And there are still many times when I feel I can't match up to her. In a way, she'll always be out of my league. But that's why I cherish her even more and want to become a man worthy of her. I channeled that desire into motivation for my writing. I personally think this kind of love is perfectly fine. So, after 2 years of dating, Susan and I got married, and we still work hand in hand. Today, the color of the flower I saw that day hasn't faded, and if anything, my affection for Susan only grows day by day. Gazing beyond me at his framed certificate, he proclaimed, "Your methods are outdated and inefficient. We require contemporary methods. I'm Ethan Crowley, a 58-year-old senior systems administrator at St. James Medical Center in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, until 10 minutes ago. 15 years of keeping a 300-bed hospital's digital heartbeat running. A 20-minute meeting has over. Behind what had been Dr. Harrison's desk sat Blake Winter, 42 years old, with no medical experience and an MBA. Our new director has been swinging his axe for 4 months already. Before I even left the building, Devin, his consultant, was standing by the window, thumbs twitching on his phone, most likely updating his LinkedIn profile. Blake added, "The shift to cloud-based architecture will be managed by the consulting team. We have prepared a severance package that includes a standard non-disclosure agreement and 2 months' salary." I felt the ID badge pressing down on my chest as I nodded. In the 15 years that I was in charge, not a single system crashed. Not during the 2018 ransomware outbreak. Not in 2020 when the electricity grid failed. Not even amid the budget cuts when I had to work 80-hour weeks to keep things going after losing half of my employees. After slipping a folder across the desk, Blake stated, "The security team will escort you to collect your personal items. Your credentials and access card are required." I put my badge on the desk after unclipping it. The safe drive contains the master passwords. Everything is appropriately documented. Superb. For the first time, Blake grinned. "Ethan, I'd appreciate that you're acting sensibly in this situation. Although it is tough, change is essential. I glanced at Devin, who was maybe 30 years old, already moving forward to take my seat. Throughout his 3-week assessment, he hadn't once questioned me about our systems. "Is there another thing?" Blake inquired. I ought to have mentioned the personalized patches I had made to him. I ought to have brought up the connection between the patient data and the old pharmacy system. I need to have alerted him to the specific backup procedures. I said, "No, nothing else," instead. After 15 years of quiet, dependable service, I went out with the security guard, past the nurses who had contacted me at 3 in the morning when systems malfunctioned, past the surgical scheduling desk where I had manually restored the database following a corruption. I climbed into my pickup in the parking lot, set my cardboard box of coffee mugs and family photos on the passenger seat, and drove off without turning around. They were not interested in my experience. They desired my absence. They wouldn't know what they'd lost until precisely 1 week later. I started at Street James right after my 50th birthday. Transitioning from private tech to healthcare wasn't my plan, but the economy tanked and Catherine's cancer treatments weren't cheap. The hospital offered stability and decent insurance. So, I took the job and learned medical systems from scratch. Those first years, I worked alongside Dr. Harrison, the old director. He understood what mattered. "Fancy dashboards don't save lives, Ethan," he'd say. "Reliability does." So, I built reliable systems, redundant backups, fail-safes, manual overrides when necessary. Not pretty, but bulletproof. I skipped vacations when the electronic prescribing platform needed upgrading. Missed my daughter, Megan's college graduation to handle an emergency server migration. Catherine understood. "You're keeping people alive," she'd say before the cancer took her 8 years ago. The hospital became my life. The staff became my family. Nurse Jacobs in oncology, who always brought me coffee when system updates ran late. Dr. Paddle in cardiology, who'd stop by with donuts on mornings after I'd fixed a critical issue. Even the janitor, Louise, who'd keep me company during overnight maintenance windows. Things changed when Dr. Harrison retired last winter. The board brought in Blake Winters from some fancy hospital network in Chicago. First thing he did was schedule an efficiency audit. I noticed the cracks immediately. Blake never attended the 8 briefings. Never asked about our system architecture. Just nodded impatiently during meetings, checking his watch. Then came Devin and his team of consultants with their matching polo shirts and buzzwords. Digital transformation. Cloud migration. System modernization. I tried explaining our specialized setup. The patient record system interfaces with 17 different platforms. I told them. Some commercial, some custom-built. We've had to create specialized. We've handled dozens of hospital migrations. Devin interrupted. It's all standard stuff. The warning signs kept flashing. Charts mapping our systems appeared on conference room walls, but they missed entire sections of infrastructure. Questions about critical connections went unanswered. My emails outlining security protocols received polite thank yous, but no follow-up questions. One Friday, I found contractors measuring my office. "Just planning the renovations," the contractor said, not meeting my eyes. I went home and updated my resume that night. Something told me to prepare, but part of me couldn't believe they'd remove the one person who understood how every piece fit together. I was wrong. They didn't just want a new system. They wanted a new story, one without the old guy who kept reminding them of the risks. The truth hit me 2 days after the firing. Sitting in my living room, surrounded by classified job listings and half-eaten takeout, my phone hadn't stopped buzzing with messages from hospital staff. "What's the backup process for surgical scheduling again?" texted Alan from it. "Where's the configuration for the pharmacy interface?" asked Denise, the database admin. I didn't answer. My termination agreement was clear. No unauthorized assistance. The realization wasn't satisfaction or relief. It was a cold, heavy certainty. They had no idea what they'd done. Our hospital systems weren't just software you could swap out, like changing a light bulb. They were living, interconnected organisms I'd cultivated for 15 years. Custom interfaces between incompatible vendor platforms. Workarounds for regulatory requirements. Manual processes where automation failed. I documented everything, of course. Hundreds of pages of technical specifications, configuration notes, emergency procedures, all filed properly on the secure drive. But documentation couldn't replace understanding. Couldn't replace 15 years of institutional knowledge. Couldn't replace me. My phone rang. Blake's number. I let it go to voicemail. Ethan, we're having some integration issues with the pharmacy system. Just a quick question. Call me back. I deleted the message and poured another cup of coffee. 3 more calls came through that day, each voicemail more urgent than the last. I deleted them all. That evening, Dr. Patel called from his personal phone. Ethan, did you hear what happened today? Emergency department couldn't access patient history for a trauma case. Had to call previous hospitals directly. Took 40 minutes to get medication allergies. I closed my eyes. No one was hurt. Not this time, he said. But Blake's new team is struggling. They're talking about rolling back to paper records temporarily. I felt a strange stillness settle over me. Not revenge, not satisfaction, just clarity. For 15 years, I'd been invisible when things worked perfectly. My sleepless nights, missed family events, and constant vigilance meant the hospital ran smoothly, that doctors could treat patients, that nurses could administer the right medications, that lives could be saved. All that mattered was keeping the system alive, and now the system was failing. I'm sorry to hear that, I said carefully. Blake's been asking if anyone has your personal contact information, Dr. Patel continued. The consultant team seems overwhelmed. I thought about the specialized backup server hidden behind a maintenance panel in the server room, about the paper documentation in the fire safe in my old office, about the authentication chains that would start expiring in exactly 12 days without manual renewal. I wished him luck, I said. After hanging up, I walked to my desk and pulled out a business card I'd been holding on to for years. Jennifer Walsh, Director of Technology at Riverside Medical Center. She tried recruiting me 3 times over the years. I didn't want revenge. I just wanted to be somewhere my experience was valued. I picked up the phone and dialed. Monday morning, my email inbox exploded. 17 messages from Blake with increasingly desperate subject lines. Quick question about patient database. Urgent cardiology system failure. Critical. Need emergency assistance. I read them all, but responded to none. My severance agreement didn't obligate me to fix their mess. The last email finally dropped all pretense. Ethan, name your consultant rate. Whatever you want, we need you back ASAP. I was halfway through composing a very professional decline when my doorbell rang. Blake Winter stood on my porch. Tie askew, eyes bloodshot. Ethan, he said, forcing a smile. Thanks for seeing me. Can we talk? I let him in, offered coffee, and waited. We've hit some unexpected complications with the system transition, he began, clutching his mug. Devin's team is working around the clock, but there are aspects of your architecture that are proving challenging to navigate. I nodded. I documented everything thoroughly. Yes, the documentation is there, but, he leaned forward. Some of these customizations, these interconnections between systems, they're quite unique. Translation. They couldn't make sense of 15 years of specialized work in 5 days. Yesterday, oncology lost access to treatment protocols for 6 hours, Blake continued. The day before, billing and insurance verification went down completely. We're facing serious compliance issues, potential patient safety concerns. I sipped my coffee. Sounds like the modernization is going well. His face tightened. Ethan, I'm prepared to offer you a 6-month contract as implementation consultant. Double your previous salary. We need you to help with the transition. The offer was almost insulting. After firing me, he expected me to come back and train my replacements properly. I'm afraid I've already accepted another position, I said. Blake's coffee mug froze halfway to his lips. Another where? Riverside Medical Center. Riverside, but they're our direct competitor. Yes. Blake set down his mug. Ethan, be reasonable. You built these systems. You know them better than anyone. We're talking about patient care. That stung, because it was meant to. 15 years, I put patient care above everything. My family, my health, my life. I agree, I said carefully. Patient care is paramount. That's why I recommended against rushing a system migration without proper transition planning. I believe that email is included in my documentation. Blake's face flushed. The board wanted immediate action. Modernization is necessary for our long term. I start at Riverside next Monday, I interrupted. I wish you and your team the best of luck. He stood up, desperation replaced by anger. Your severance package includes a non-compete clause. You can't work for a competitor for 6 months. I smiled for the first time. Actually, it doesn't. I had my lawyer review it before signing. There's a non-disclosure agreement, but no non-compete. I'm free to work wherever I choose. Blake's expression darkened. This is about revenge, isn't it? Making us suffer because I let you go. I walked to the door and opened it. This is about finding somewhere that values 15 years of expertise instead of dismissing it as outdated and inefficient. Good luck with your modernization, Director Winters. After he left, I sat down and finished my coffee. I didn't feel triumphant or vindictive, just tired and a little sad. My phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Patel. Administration in full panic mode. 3 departments down. Board emergency meeting called. I didn't reply, but I saved the message, not as a trophy. As a reminder of what happens when experience is treated as obsolete. By Thursday, the local news had caught the story. System failures plague St. James Medical Center. Patient care affected. I watched from my living room as a reporter stood outside the hospital where I'd spent 15 years. Sources inside St. James confirmed that multiple departments have experienced technology failures following a recent 8 leadership change, the reporter said. The hospital has been forced to implement emergency paper protocols while experts work to restore critical systems. My phone rang. Jennifer Walsh from Riverside. Seeing the news about St. James, she said, "You doing okay?" "I'm fine," I replied, looking forward to starting Monday. About that, Jennifer said, "I just got a very interesting call from someone on St. James's board, a Dr. Eleanor Hughes." I remembered Dr. Hughes, head of surgery, one of the few board members who actually understood what my team did. What did she want? To verify you'd accepted our offer, Jennifer said, and to tell me some interesting things about the situation at St. James. I sat up straighter. What things? Apparently, Director Winters didn't just decide to replace you on a whim. He's been working with Helix Solutions Group for months. The name hit like a punch. Helix Solutions was a healthcare technology company known for taking over hospital operations, and then raising prices once systems were dependent on their proprietary platforms. Blake brought in their consultants as part of a larger deal, Jennifer continued. Helix offered significant upfront savings to the board. If St. James converted to their platform, Blake would get a performance bonus for cost reduction. The pieces clicked into place. My firing wasn't about modernization. It was about clearing the path for a corporate takeover of our systems. The board didn't fully understand the technical implications, Jennifer added. They trusted Blake's assessment that transitioning would be seamless. I thought about the specialized systems I'd built. Systems that prioritize patient care over corporate efficiency. Systems built to serve doctors and nurses, not billing departments. How bad is it really? I asked. Jennifer paused. Dr. Hughes said they've had to divert emergency patients to other hospitals. Critical care units are on manual protocols. The state compliance office is investigating. I closed my eyes. This wasn't what I wanted. I never wanted patients to suffer. There's more, Jennifer said. Dr. Hughes mentioned that before presenting the Helix proposal, Blake had all department heads sign off on a technology assessment. The assessment claimed that your systems were obsolete, non-compliant, and at high risk of failure. That's not true, I said, anger finally breaking through. We passed every compliance audit. Had 99.98% uptime last year. Dr. Hughes knows that now. The board is realizing they were missiled. After hanging up, I opened my laptop and found an email from Dr. Hughes herself, sent an hour earlier. Ethan, I owe you an apology. The board approved Blake's IT restructuring based on incomplete and misleading information. We've since learned that the outdated systems you maintained were in fact exceeding all industry benchmarks for reliability and security. Blake and Helix presented us with false comparisons and manipulated performance metrics to justify the change. The situation has grown serious enough that we've called an emergency board meeting for tomorrow morning. I'd like to invite you to attend and share your perspective. No obligation, but many of us would appreciate hearing directly from you. Regardless of what you decide, I want you to know that many of us now understand the disservice that was done to you and to our hospital. Sincerely, Eleanor Hughes, MD. I sat back, letting the truth settle around me. This wasn't just about firing a loyal employee. It was about deliberately dismantling a working system for profit. I'd arrived at the hospital boardroom Friday morning exactly 15 minutes early, the same way I'd arrived for every meeting during my 15 years of employment. Several board members were already there, including Dr. Hughes, who greeted me with a handshake and a grateful nod. "Thank you for coming, Ethan," she said. "I wasn't sure you would." Neither was I admitted. The room filled quickly. Department heads, administrators, and doctors I'd worked with for years. Blake arrived last, stopping short when he saw me sitting at the table. The Helix consultant, Devon, trailed behind him, looking considerably less confident than the day I was fired. Dr. Hughes called the meeting to order. "We are here to address the ongoing system failures and to reassess our relationship with Helix Solutions." She turned to me. "Mr. Dr. Crowley has graciously agreed to provide his assessment of the situation." All eyes turned to me. For 15 years, I'd worked quietly behind the scenes, solving problems without recognition. Now I was center stage. "The systems at St. James were built over 15 years to meet specific needs," I began. "Every customization, every interface was created to solve a real problem faced by medical staff. These weren't outdated systems. They were specialized tools." I opened my laptop and connected it to the projector. On screen appeared the documentation I'd meticulously maintained. Hundreds of pages detailing every aspect of the hospital's digital infrastructure. "Everything needed to maintain these systems is here," I said. "Complete documentation, contingency procedures, security protocols. The problem isn't the documentation. The problem is that Helix's platform isn't compatible with the specialized systems this hospital relies on." Blake interrupted. "The compatibility issues are temporary. Helix has successfully implemented their solutions in dozens of hospitals." I pulled up my second document, a detailed comparison I'd prepared overnight. These are the hospitals where Helix has implemented their platform. Notice anything? Dr. Paddle leaned forward. "They're all new facilities or recent builds." "Exactly," I said. "Helix works well in hospitals built from the ground up on their platform, but retrofitting their system onto established hospitals with legacy requirements, that's where they struggle. I turned to face Blake directly. Which Helix knew before they came here? Their own technical specifications, which I've highlighted, show the incompatibilities with our pharmacy and radiology systems. The board members exchanged glances. Dr. Hughes turned to Blake. Did you know about these incompatibilities when you recommended Helix? Blake's confidence faltered. The assessment indicated that any transition challenges would be minimal. And the assessment you personally oversaw, I interrupted, pulling up an email I'd received from a former colleague. The same assessment where you directed staff to emphasize system vulnerabilities and minimize stability metrics. The room grew silent. I hadn't come for revenge, but I'd come for truth. The fact is, I continued, Street James can't function on Helix's platform without sacrificing the specialized workflows that make this hospital exceptional. Not without years of careful transition planning. Dr. Hughes looked at her colleagues. I believe we've heard enough to make an informed decision. Blake stood up. You can't seriously be considering abandoning modernization based on the opinion of a disgruntled ex-employee. Dr. Pavel spoke up. We've diverted 67 emergency patients in the past week. 3 surgeries were delayed. Medicine administration errors increased 12%. Those aren't opinions, Director Winters. Those are facts. The board voted 20 minutes later. The Helix contract would be terminated immediately. An emergency restoration plan would be implemented to return to the previous systems. As I packed up my laptop, Dr. Hughes approached me. The board has another proposition for you, Ethan, if you're willing to hear it. I glanced at Blake, standing defeated by the door. I'm listening, I said. 3 weeks later, I walked through the hospital's main entrance wearing a new ID badge. Ethan Crowley, Chief Technology Officer. The turnaround hadn't been easy. The Helix team had made significant changes before departing, some of which had corrupted key databases. My new team, a mix of former colleagues and fresh talent, had worked around the clock restoring systems, rebuilding interfaces, and recovering data. Blake was gone, pursuing other opportunities. According to the official announcement, I hadn't asked for his removal, but I wasn't sorry to see him go. I stopped by the nurses' station in cardiology, where Nurse Jacobs broke into a smile. Systems are running smooth as silk again, she said. Patient records loading in under 2 seconds. Good to hear, I replied. Any other issues? Not since you came back. Night and day difference. As I continued my rounds, Dr. Patel fell in step beside me. Heading to the board meeting? I nodded. Quarterly technology review. First one with you at the big table instead of standing in the corner with a slideshow, he noted. We entered the boardroom where the hospital leadership was gathering. Dr. Hughes, now interim director, nodded to me. Mr. Crowley, we're eager to hear your department's report. I connected my laptop to the projector. On screen appeared a simple dashboard showing system performance, uptime statistics, and comparison metrics from before and after the Helix debacle. Recovery is complete, I stated. All systems restored with no data loss. We've implemented additional safeguards against similar disruptions in the future. Dr. Hughes studied the metrics and the modernization initiatives Director Winters was so concerned about. I changed slides to show my 5-year technology roadmap, a careful, methodical plan for evolving our systems without compromising patient care. Real modernization, I said, doesn't replace what works. It builds on it. The board unanimously approved the plan. 6 months later, I sat on my back deck with a cup of coffee, watching the sunset. My phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer Walsh at Riverside. Kurt Street, James received the Regional Excellence in Healthcare Technology Award. Congratulations, almost colleague. I smiled and typed back. Thanks. Sorry for the last-minute career change. No hard feelings. You were where you needed to be. She was right. I belonged at Street James, though not in the same invisible role I'd occupied for 15 years. As CTO, I now had a voice in decisions that affected patient care. I had a seat at the table where I could defend the systems that mattered. The hospital had learned its lesson the hard way. Experience couldn't be replaced with buzzwords. Loyalty couldn't be discounted as outdated. I scrolled through my camera roll to a photo taken at last week's staff appreciation dinner. My team standing together, a mix of veterans and newcomers, each bringing valuable perspectives. The plaque on the table recognized our department's contribution to patient care. In the 15 years before my firing, I had never once been publicly acknowledged for keeping the hospital running. Now my expertise was visible, respected, valued. I thought about Blake occasionally, wondering if he'd learned anything from the experience. Last I heard, he'd taken a position at a healthcare startup promising revolutionary disruption of hospital administration. Some lessons are harder to learn than others. My new ID badge sat on the table beside me. I picked it up, running my thumb across the title, Chief Technology Officer. Not just the man who kept the lights on anymore, the man who helped guide the hospital's future. I hadn't wanted revenge. I'd wanted recognition, not of my ego, but of the truth that experience matters. That some things can't be replaced or repackaged or disrupted without consequences. Sometimes the most innovative approach is simply respecting what already works.